Hello boys and girls, this is Mr. Kizik, and in this video we're going to be looking at the distance formula and the midpoint formula. So the distance formula, as it says here, it's the distance between any 2 points. Now maybe some of you are familiar with this already. The distance formula is going to be d equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Now with this here, you would then just plug in your points for x and y and solve for the distance. Now with the distance formula, what's nice about it, it doesn't matter which is x1, y1, x2, y2, and it's also nice that if you mix up which is x1 and x2 and y1 and y2, because you are squaring it, the value becomes positive all the time, and therefore the problem does not change. So if I look at number 1 here, number 1, find the distance between 2 points on the graph. So the point that's all the way to the left looks like it is -5, 3, and the one to the right here looks like it's -2, -3. So following the distance formula, we would have d equals the square root of -5 minus -2 squared plus 3 minus -3 squared. And that's just a matter of doing the algebra. -5 minus -2, or -5 plus 2, is going to be -3, and -3 squared is 9. 9 plus, and then 3 minus -3 is really 3 plus 3, so 6, and 6 squared is 36. And then 9 plus 36 is 45, so final answer is the square root of 45. Now, what you would then do is just put it into your calculator to get your actual answer, because we are talking about distance, and square root of 45, even though it is correct, it's not, we don't understand what that distance is. We actually want a number. Okay? And that's how you work on a distance formula. So if we just do another example together, let's just do number 2. We want to find the distance between A and B, and they give you A and B. So just following the distance formula again, we would have d equals the square root of -4 minus 3 squared plus 1 minus -1 squared. And then just do the math. -4 minus 3 is -7. Squared is 49. Plus 1 minus -1 is 2 squared 4. So square root of 53. And then again, you would just plug that into your calculator and get your answer. Okay? And that's all there is to the distance formula. Let's move on then to the midpoint formula. Now, what I like to tell my students is midpoint is really another way of saying average. Because think about it, when you find the average of something, you're looking to see where is like kind of the middle of all the data here. So you're finding the average of your 2 endpoints. So the midpoint formula is going to be adding the x's together, divided by 2, and adding the y's together and divided by 2. Now the reason why I put this m here in front is because it is a point. Usually m represents midpoint, so that's why I use that. So your final answer isn't going to be just x equals or y equals. Your answer is a point x comma y. So if I look at number 4 here, it says find the midpoint of GH given those 2 points. So the midpoint is just going to be adding the x's, so 7 plus 9 divided by 2, and then finding the y's. So adding the y's and dividing by 2. So now this becomes, the midpoint is going to be 7 plus 9, 16 divided by 2, 8. -5 plus -1, -6 divided by 2, -3. So this is my midpoint, the middle point between those 2 endpoints. And number 5 is the same concept here, so I don't think we need to do another example of that. This one here, now with the midpoint formula, we could find the missing endpoint. So if I look at number 6, it says find the coordinates of A. So find the endpoint if -1, 2 is the midpoint, and B has a coordinate of 3, -5. So I'm going to write this to the side over here. Basically, what you were doing in the previous problem was this. You were finding the midpoint of x was equal to the endpoints added together divided by 2, and then the y midpoint was adding the y's together and dividing by 2. So in this case here, instead of adding the 2 points together and dividing by 2, you want to plug it into your equation correctly. So I'm given the midpoint, -1, 2. So this is my x, right? xm, ym. And then right here, my endpoint is my x1, y1. So I'm really doing 2 separate problems here to find my endpoint. So to find my x endpoint, I'm going to follow this x equation right here. So I would just plug in the values I do know. The x of my midpoint, -1, equals my endpoint plus this divided by 2. Now I can solve for my missing endpoint because I only have one variable. And I do that, if you recall, just multiply each side by 2. So I got -2 equals 3 plus x2. So x2 is going to be -5. Well, now I can do the same thing for my y value. My y midpoint was 2 equals, my y1 was -5. -5 plus y2 over 2. And the same thing, solve your equation. Multiply each side by 2. 4 equals -5 plus y2, and add 5 to both sides, so I get 9. But my final answer here, remember, is always a point. So my final answer is going to be x comma y, or -5 comma 9. And technically we should put that a in front because that's what we were trying to solve for. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you would find the missing endpoint given the midpoint and endpoint. So that's it for this video here today. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to email me and I'd be happy to respond. This is Mr. Kizik signing off.